A child's cry echoed through the blizzard, not the frightened cry of someone lost, the desperate howl of a young wolf calling for parents who could no longer answer. Alpha King Rowan Winterfang pulled hard on the reins as his enormous gray stallion stopped at the edge of a frozen ravine. The hunting party behind him struggled to see through the swirling snow, but Rowan had already heard something no ordinary wolf could detect. Another cry. Closer, somewhere beneath the drifting ice. Only 6 days remained before the winter summit, where every Alpha King would gather to determine the future balance of power across the continent. If Rowan failed to appear, ambitious rivals would challenge Frostclaw's authority, and fragile alliances could collapse before the first thaw of spring. Before destiny reveals why one abandoned child changed an entire kingdom forever, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us where you are listening from today. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that still believe compassion can rewrite fate. Now return to the frozen wilderness where everything began. Rowan leapt from his horse without hesitation. The snow reached nearly to his knees as he followed the sound toward a narrow opening beneath an ancient pine whose roots twisted around shattered stone. There, curled inside a small hollow, protected from the wind, a little boy, no more than 5 years old, silver hair, bare feet, a torn wool blanket wrapped around his trembling shoulders. His pale blue eyes remained fixed on the approaching king. Yet he did not cry again. He simply whispered one heartbreaking word, "Mother." Rowan knelt immediately. "You are safe now." The child tried to stand, but collapsed from exhaustion before taking a single step. As Rowan lifted him into his arms, an unexpected warmth spread through the freezing air. The snow stopped falling, the wind fell silent. Even the wolves accompanying the royal hunt lowered their heads as though recognizing something ancient within the frightened child. Captain Garrick rode forward, visibly alarmed. "Your Majesty, we should leave him." Rowan looked up sharply. "He is only a child. We do not know who he is." "Exactly." Rowan tightened the blanket around the boy. "Until we do, no one will harm him." Far above the frozen valley, hidden behind layers of storm clouds, an enormous white wolf silently watched the Alpha King carry the child toward Frostclaw Palace. Its glowing silver eyes never blinked, as though destiny itself had just taken its first breath. The palace celebrated the king's safe return. No one celebrated the child. Servants whispered as Rowan carried the exhausted boy through Frostclaw's towering gates. Noble families abandoned their conversations to stare. Royal guards exchanged uneasy glances. Some looked at the child with pity. Others looked at him with fear. The little boy remained asleep against Rowan's shoulder, his tiny hands still clutching the edge of the worn blanket that had nearly frozen around him. No name, no family crest, no memory beyond frightened silence. To the court, he was an inconvenience. To Rowan, he was simply a child who deserved warmth. "Prepare the eastern guest chamber," Rowan ordered. Lady Selene Ashthorne stepped forward before any servant could obey. "Your Majesty," her voice carried polished elegance, "we know nothing about this boy." "That is true. He may carry disease. The physicians will examine him. He may be cursed. The elders will know. He may belong to an enemy bloodline." Rowan met her gaze. "Then we shall discover the truth." Selene lowered her eyes. "A king should protect his kingdom before protecting strangers," Rowan answered quietly. "A kingdom that abandons a child deserves no protection." The room fell silent. No one challenged him again. Hours later, warm firelight filled the guest chamber. Royal physicians carefully treated the frostbite on the child's feet while elderly healers prepared herbs to lower his fever. He never awakened. Only one word escaped his lips over and over: "Mother." Outside the chamber stood Serena. She had waited in silence since Rowan returned. Her hands trembled against the silver moon pendant resting around her neck. She had heard the servants: a child, silver hair, blue eyes, found beneath the northern pines. Every description tightened something deep inside her heart. Finally, door opened. Rowan smiled gently. "He is asleep," Serena nodded, but could not answer. Her legs suddenly felt too weak to carry her. Rowan noticed immediately. "Serena?" She forced a smile. "I only wish to see him." Rowan stepped aside. The room became impossibly still. Serena approached the bed one slow step at a time. The little boy lay wrapped beneath thick blankets, his cheeks pale from exhaustion. A single strand of silver hair rested across his forehead. Then, the blanket shifted, the collar slipped slightly from his neck. Serena saw it, a tiny crescent-shaped birthmark behind his left ear. The world disappeared. Her breathing stopped. Tears filled her eyes before she could control them. "No!" The whisper escaped without permission. Her fingers covered her trembling lips. "It cannot." Rowan stepped closer. "What is wrong?" Serena could not look away. Years vanished. Winter returned. Blood stained white snow once more. She remembered everything. 6 years earlier, long before she became Rowan's Luna, she had been traveling alone through the northern mountains after delivering medicine to an isolated village. Night had fallen early. A terrible snowstorm swallowed every trail. Then she heard shouting, not ordinary shouting. Hunters. She followed the sound. Below the cliffs, a burning carriage lay overturned. Royal guards already lay motionless beneath the snow. 3 hooded assassins searched desperately through the wreckage. "The baby escaped! Find him! The first moon bloodline ends tonight!" Serena had hidden behind frozen rocks, terrified. Then she heard it. A tiny cry. Barely louder than the wind, she crawled through deep snow until she found a small woven basket trapped beneath broken branches. Inside, a newborn baby wrapped inside faded blue cloth. His tiny fingers reached towards her. Without thinking, she picked him up. The crying stopped instantly. One assassin turned. "There!" Serena ran. Branches tore her cloak. Ice cut her hands. She held the baby tightly against her heart, while wolves howled somewhere beyond the darkness. She did not know his name. She did not know why anyone wanted him dead. She knew only one thing: no child deserved to die. For 3 endless days, she hid among abandoned shepherd huts. She shared every piece of bread she carried, every drop of water, every blanket. When the assassins finally disappeared, Serena reached an ancient monastery hidden high within the mountains. The elderly monks recognized the crescent-shaped birthmark immediately. One old guardian fell to his knees, the child of the first moon. Serena frowned. "What does that mean?" The old monk looked toward the stars. "It means every throne on this continent will someday seek him. You must leave." "I cannot." "You must. They will return." Serena looked down at the sleeping infant. "I cannot abandon him." "You are not abandoning him." The old guardian smiled sadly. "You are giving him a chance to live." With trembling hands, Serena kissed the baby's forehead. "I am sorry. I hope one day someone kind finds you." She placed the infant into the monastery's care before disappearing before sunrise. She never learned what happened afterward. Never knew whether he survived. Never stopped wondering. Now. Years later, That same crescent birthmark rested before her eyes. The little boy shifted slightly in his sleep. Almost instinctively, he reached for Serena's hand. His tiny fingers wrapped gently around hers. He smiled without opening his eyes. "Mother." Serena's tears finally fell. Rowan watched quietly. He had never seen his Luna cry like this. She leaned closer. Her voice broke into a whisper barely louder than the fireplace. "That is our son." Rowan stared at her. The words made no sense. They had never had a child together. The court believed grief from an earlier miscarriage had never fully left Serena's heart. Would they believe the same now, before Rowan could speak? A low rumble echoed beneath the palace floor. The walls trembled. Ancient silver runes hidden inside the stone foundations began glowing for the first time in centuries. Deep below Frostclaw Palace, massive doors sealed since the age of the first wolves slowly unlocked. At their center, an ancient royal seal illuminated itself. The symbol was unmistakable, a silver crescent surrounding the paw of a wolf cub. No living historian had ever seen it awaken somewhere far beyond Frostclaw. A hooded messenger watched the northern sky change color. He immediately mounted his horse. The Moon Heir has been found. Within hours, kings, assassins, and forgotten enemies would all begin riding toward the same child. The first wolf bowed before dawn, not a royal guardian, not one of Rowan's warriors. An ancient white wolf whose muzzle had long turned silver with age emerged silently from the northern forest and walked through the palace gates without resistance. The guards reached for their weapons. The old creature ignored them. Its clouded eyes remained fixed upon a single chamber inside Frostclaw Palace. Lucien's room. Within moments, another wolf appeared, then another. Gray wolves, black wolves, golden wolves, none belonged to Frostclaw. Some carried the sense of kingdoms separated by thousands of miles. Yet they crossed the borders without challenge, as though answering a command older than every throne on the continent. Captain Garrick hurried into the council chamber. "Your Majesty." Rowan immediately stood. "What happened?" "The wolves." "What wolves?" "They keep coming." Outside the palace windows, dozens of enormous wolves now sat peacefully across the snow-covered courtyard. None growled. None attacked. Every one of them faced the eastern tower where Lucien still slept. Lady Celane's expression darkened. "This is unnatural." High Elder Benedict slowly shook his head. "No. It is ancient." The chamber fell silent. Rowan turned toward the elder. "You have seen this before?" "No living wolf has, but I have read about it." The old man walked toward the window. "When wolves recognize the blood of the first moon, they do not obey, they remember." Meanwhile, Serena remained beside Lucien's bed. The little boy had finally awakened. His frightened blue eyes wandered across the unfamiliar room before settling on her face. He did not panic. Instead, he smiled. "You came back." Serena felt her heart stop. "What did you say?" "You promised." His voice remained soft. "You said someone kind would find me." Rowan entered quietly. The child looked toward him, without fear, without hesitation. "Good morning." Rowan smiled warmly. "And good morning to you." "Do you remember your name?" The boy nodded. "Lucien." "Do you remember your family?" The smile slowly disappeared. "I remember snow." He lowered his eyes. "I remember loud voices. I remember running, then nothing." Rowan knelt beside the bed. "That is enough." "You do not have to remember today." Lucien looked carefully at him. "You are the king." "I am." "Kings are supposed to be frightening." Rowan laughed softly. "Who told you that?" The child shrugged. I heard people talking. Rowan gently placed a warm loaf of bread beside him. Perhaps they have never met the right king, Lucian smiled again. Across the room, Serena watched them together. Something inside her began healing. She had carried guilt for years, believing she abandoned the child, believing she had failed him. Yet somehow, he had survived. Not only survived, he still trusted kindness. Before another word could be spoken, the air changed. A strange warmth flowed through the chamber. The candles flickered without wind. Silver light shimmered beneath the wooden floor. Lucian suddenly looked toward the eastern wall. They are awake, Rowan frowned. Who? The wolves. At that exact moment, every wolf outside lifted its head toward the sky. A deep chorus rolled across Frostclaw Valley, not a warning, a greeting. Then it happened, a pulse, invisible, powerful, ancient. It spread outward from Lucian like ripples across still water. Rowan staggered. His heartbeat accelerated violently. His breathing became uneven. Something impossible filled the room. A scent, fresh snowfall, moonflowers, cedar, wild lavender, ancient forests untouched by time. His wolf surged awake with overwhelming force. Every instinct inside him roared at once. Not with aggression, with recognition. His chest tightened. A deep, primal purr vibrated through his entire body before he could suppress it. Rowan froze. Impossible. That scent. He had experienced it only once before, the day he found Serena, the ancient blessing surrounding a destined family. High Elder Benedict stepped backward in astonishment. The blood remembers, Lady Selene frowned. What does that mean? The elder never looked away from Lucian. It recognizes its protector. Rowan slowly approached the child. The strange energy intensified with every step. Electric warmth rushed beneath his skin. The mate bond connecting him to Serena resonated more strongly than ever before, not because of distance, because of Lucian. The boy looked up innocently. Does your heart hurt too? Rowan stared. How did you know? Lucian touched his own chest. Mine does. But only when you and Mother are together. Silence. No one breathed. Even Serena struggled to understand. Before anyone could respond, a loud metallic sound echoed throughout the palace. Clang, then another. Clang, deep beneath Frostclaw Castle. The ancient vault of kings had begun opening. No ruler had entered its sacred halls for nearly 800 years. Royal guards rushed downstairs. Rowan followed immediately. Massive stone doors stood wide open. Inside, dozens of forgotten relics glowed beneath silver moonlight pouring through cracks that should not have existed. Ancient crowns, ceremonial blades, royal standards. At the center of the chamber rested a crystal pedestal bearing a circular silver seal. As Lucian stepped inside behind Serena, the seal awakened. Runes blazed across its surface. Then, the impossible happened. The seal lifted itself into the air, slowly, gracefully, until it hovered before the little boy, without anyone touching it. The ancient emblem separated into two pieces. One drifted gently toward Rowan, the other toward Serena. The three lights connected. King, Luna, child, single circle. High Elder Benedict fell to one knee. His voice trembled. The first moon family. Every guard followed, not because Rowan commanded it, because history itself demanded it. Lady Selene's face turned pale. She quietly stepped backward. No one noticed her slipping from the chamber. Minutes later, hidden inside her private quarters, she opened a concealed iron box. Inside rested a black crystal used only for forbidden communication. She whispered one sentence. They have found the Moon Heir. Far beyond Frostclaw's borders, inside a fortress carved into black mountains, High Alpha Magnus Dreadmore slowly opened his eyes. A cruel smile crossed his scarred face. So, he lives. He rose from his throne. Prepare every rider. Around him, members of the Brotherhood of the Crimson Moon knelt in absolute silence. Magnus looked toward the northern horizon. This time, the child does not escape. Outside the fortress, thousands of armored wolves began marching beneath banners as black as the coming storm. The hunt had begun. The palace bells rang once, then twice, then they refused to stop. The mournful sound rolled across Frostclaw Kingdom, carrying one unmistakable command. Every warrior, every guardian, every loyal wolf, to the walls. Snow whipped violently across the battlements as Captain Garrick climbed the highest watchtower. His face turned pale. "My king," Rowan reached the tower within seconds. "What do you see?" The captain raised a trembling hand toward the northern horizon. At first, there was only darkness, then movement. Thousands of black banners appeared beyond the forest. Thousands more followed. The army stretched across the frozen valley like a living shadow, swallowing the earth itself. High Alpha Magnus Dreadmore had not come with diplomats. He had come with conquest. Beside him marched the Brotherhood of the Crimson Moon, silent, disciplined, relentless. Every warrior wore armor etched with crimson runes designed to suppress ancient bloodlines. Lady Selene stood beside Magnus. No longer pretending loyalty, she smiled toward Frostclaw Palace. "The child is inside," Magnus nodded. "Take him alive." The king? If he stands in the way, his expression never changed. "Break his kingdom." Within moments, enormous war horns echoed across the valley. The first arrows darkened the sky. They never reached the palace. A wall of shimmering silver light erupted around Frostclaw. Ancient runes awakened across the fortress stones, responding to the first moon seal beneath the castle. Every projectile dissolved before touching the walls. The attacking army slowed. Magnus narrowed his eyes. So the old magic remembers. Inside the palace, servants hurried frightened children into underground shelters, while healers prepared supplies for the wounded. No panic, only determined purpose. Serena knelt beside Lucian. The little boy quietly watched snow drifting beyond the window. "Are they coming because of me?" Serena gently brushed silver hair away from his face. "They are coming because some people fear hope." Lucian lowered his eyes. "I do not want anyone to get hurt." Serena embraced him. "No loving heart ever chooses war. But sometimes," she looked toward the distant battlefield, "good people must protect each other." The chamber door burst open. Rowan entered wearing his black royal armor. Fresh moonsteel glowed beneath engraved wolf markings. His golden eyes met Serena's. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Rowan walked toward Lucian. He knelt, exactly at the child's height. "I need you to listen carefully," Lucian nodded. "No matter what happens today, you are not alone, I promise." The little boy reached into his blanket. From within its worn folds, he removed a tiny carved wooden wolf. Its surface had become smooth after years of being held. "I kept this," Rowan frowned. "Where did you find it?" Lucian smiled. "A lady gave it to me. She said it would remind me that kind people always return." Serena's hand instinctively covered her mouth. Years earlier, she had carved that tiny wolf while waiting beside a fire during the 3 nights she hid him from the assassins. She had believed it lost forever. Lucian looked toward her. "I never forgot." Tears filled Serena's eyes. Neither had she. Suddenly, a violent explosion shook the palace. Stone shattered. Dust filled the corridors. Captain Garrick's voice thundered through the fortress. "The northern gate! They breached the outer wall!" Rowan rose immediately. "Remain inside!" Lucian grabbed his wrist. "Please come back," Rowan smiled. "I intend to." Outside, chaos erupted. Black Fang catapults hurled enchanted stones against the ancient walls. Brotherhood assassins slipped through clouds of smoke searching for hidden entrances. Royal wolves clashed with armored invaders beneath blinding snowfall. Steel rang, magic flashed. The ground trembled beneath charging beasts. Rowan leaped from the shattered gate onto the battlefield. His landing cracked frozen earth. Every nearby warrior stopped. Even Magnus watched with quiet admiration. There stands a true alpha. Rowan drew his moonsteel blade. Its silver edge ignited beneath the winter sky. "You cross my borders. You threaten my family. There will be no further warning," Magnus laughed. "You still think this is about kingdoms?" "No," he pointed toward the palace. "It has always been about the child." The Brotherhood surged forward. Hundreds attacked simultaneously. Rowan met them head-on. One strike, 3 attackers fell backward. Another, the shockwave split the snow-covered ground. His alpha aura exploded outward. Invisible force rippled through the battlefield. War horses reared. Armored wolves stumbled. Trees bent beneath crushing pressure. Yet the Brotherhood continued advancing. They feared failure more than death. Magnus entered the battle at last. His enormous crimson axe struck with impossible force. Steel collided against moonsteel. The impact echoed across the valley like thunder. Both Alpha Kings slid backward through deep snow. Magnus smiled. "Excellent. I hoped the stories were true." Rowan answered with silence. His attention remained divided. Every heartbeat. He listened for Lucian. Inside the palace, the little boy suddenly stood. "They're here." Serena looked toward the doorway. Nothing. Then, a whisper, barely audible. Brotherhood assassins emerged from hidden passageways beneath the floor. They had never intended to attack the walls, only distract Rowan. Their true mission had begun. One assassin lunged toward Lucian before Serena could move. A blinding silver light burst from the child's crescent birthmark. The entire chamber froze, not from cold, from power. Ancient wolf spirits materialized around Lucian. Massive translucent guardians formed from moonlight itself. 1, then 5, then 12. Their glowing eyes locked onto the assassins. The spirits did not attack immediately. Instead, they stepped between Lucian and every blade. Outside, every wolf across the battlefield suddenly lifted its head. They felt it. The first moon bloodline had awakened. Magnus's confident smile disappeared. So the prophecy was real. At that same moment, a deep horn echoed from beyond Frostclaw's southern mountains. Then another, then dozens. Captain Garrick looked toward the horizon. His exhausted face transformed into disbelief. "My king, they've come." Over the snow-covered ridges appeared banner after banner. Storm Peak, White Crest, Moonwater, Iron Hollow, Golden Vale, Ashen Ridge. Every Alpha Kingdom that had once received Serena's quiet kindness now answered a different call. Not Rowan's, not Frostclaw's, Lucian's. Thousands of allied warriors descended into the valley. At their front rode High Alpha Aldrich, Queen Helena Elderline. None waited for invitation, none requested permission. They had come because the child Serena saved years ago belonged to every kingdom that still believed mercy deserved protection. The battlefield changed instantly. Hope had found an army. Magnus slowly tightened his grip upon his axe. "For the first time," he whispered, "we may actually lose." The battlefield grew strangely quiet. Not because the fighting had ended, because every warrior could feel that history itself had reached a turning point. Snow drifted slowly between two armies now frozen in uncertainty. On one side stood Magnus Dreadmore and the remnants of the Brotherhood of the Crimson Moon. On the other stood an alliance no king had ever successfully forged. Alpha Kings, Luna Queens, Royal Elders, thousands of wolves from rival kingdoms. They had not gathered for conquest. They had gathered for one child. Magnus looked across the valley and laughed. So this is what the first moon bloodline buys. Loyalty. No, Elder Queen Rosalind answered. It inspires it. Her calm words unsettled more warriors than any battle cry. Magnus raised his crimson axe. If the boy lives, every throne becomes unstable. If the boy dies, the future belongs to strength. He pointed directly toward the palace. Kill the heir! Hundreds of Brotherhood soldiers charged once more. Rowan moved before anyone else. His wolf burst forward with terrifying speed. Golden light exploded around his body. Every heartbeat echoed like thunder. Steel collided. Snow erupted beneath crushing force. The king fought with relentless precision. He did not fight for territory. He fought for home. One assassin slipped through the chaos, then another. They ignored Rowan completely. Their only target was Lucian. Captain Garrick intercepted the first. High Alpha Aldrich stopped the second. Queen Helena raised a silver barrier that shattered a rain of enchanted arrows before they could strike the palace windows. Across the battlefield, Serena stepped outside holding Lucian's hand. Royal guards immediately surrounded them. Your Majesty, please return inside. Serena gently shook her head. No. If everyone risks their lives for him, he should know he is not alone. Lucian looked across the valley. So many people. They came because of me? Serena knelt beside him. They came because kindness travels farther than fear. The little boy squeezed her hand. I want to be kind too. A warm smile crossed Serena's face. You already are. Suddenly, Lady Selene emerged from behind the shattered chapel ruins. A hidden dagger rested in her trembling hand. No army, no witnesses. Only desperation. If I cannot deliver the child, I will end the prophecy myself. She rushed toward Lucian. Serena instinctively stepped between them. There was no weapon in her hands. Only courage. The dagger stopped inches from Serena's heart. Not because Selene hesitated, because Rowan caught the blade with his bare hand. Blood ran across his fingers. His golden eyes burned brighter than the rising sun. You threatened my queen. His voice became impossibly calm. You hunted a child. You betrayed every oath you ever swore. For the first time, Lady Selene looked afraid. She dropped the dagger. I only wanted power. You wanted control, Rowan answered. There is a difference. Royal guards peacefully restrained her. She offered no resistance. Her ambition had already defeated her. Farther across the valley, Magnus roared and struck Rowan with overwhelming force. The Alpha King staggered backward. His armor cracked. Blood stained the snow beneath his boots. The warlord advanced. You cannot protect everyone. No, Rowan admitted. But I can protect the ones who matter most. Their weapons collided again. The impact shook the ancient standing stones surrounding the valley. At that exact moment, Lucian stepped forward. Everyone shouted at once, "Stay back!" The little boy ignored the warnings. He walked toward the battlefield until moonlight surrounded him. His crescent birthmark glowed. The 12 ancient wolf spirits appeared again. This time they formed a great circle around every living warrior, not around Lucian, around everyone, friend and enemy alike. The spirits raised their heads toward the heavens. A brilliant silver light spread across the valley. Magnus swung his axe again. It stopped in midair, not blocked, simply unable to continue. The ancient power refused to allow hatred another victory. Lucian looked directly at Magnus. His small voice carried across the silent battlefield. "You do not have to be alone anymore." The words struck harder than any weapon. Magnus's grip weakened. No child had ever spoken to him without fear. For one fleeting moment, the ruthless warlord remembered being a frightened boy himself. His axe slipped from his hands and fell into the snow. The battle was over. Brotherhood soldiers slowly lowered their weapons, one after another. Then all at once, silence replaced violence. High Elder Benedict stepped forward carrying the ancient Book of Judgment. The laws of the first moon still stand. No execution, no vengeance. Those who sought to destroy life shall spend their lives restoring it. Magnus looked toward Rowan. "You spare me after everything?" Rowan glanced at Serena. She answered first. "If we answer hatred with hatred, the child learns nothing." Lucian quietly nodded. "I want them to build homes, not graves." Many warriors wept openly. Even hardened Alpha Kings lowered their heads. Royal guards escorted Magnus, Selene, and the remaining conspirators away, not toward gallows, toward the villages they had destroyed. They would spend the rest of their lives rebuilding what they had tried to erase. As the prisoners disappeared into the distance, Rowan slowly turned toward Serena. His armor hung in broken pieces. Blood covered his hands and shoulders. His breathing had become uneven. Yet his eyes held only gratitude. He crossed the snow until he stood before her. Without hesitation, the Alpha King of Frostclaw fell to both knees. Every ruler present watched in respectful silence. Rowan lowered his head. "I believed I rescued our son." His voice broke. "The truth is, you saved him years before I ever found him." He looked up through tears. "You carried that burden alone. You protected an innocent child. You protected a future you could not even explain. I should have trusted your heart long before I understood your silence." Serena knelt before him. She gently touched the wound across his hand where he had stopped Selene's blade. "You came back, I promised. And this time, you did not let fear decide." Rowan smiled. "Never again." Lucian stepped between them. He wrapped one small hand around Serena's fingers, the other around Rowan's. Then he whispered the words both had waited years to hear. "Can we go home together?" Neither answered with words. They embraced him together. Around them, thousands of wolves lifted their voices beneath the evening sky, not in mourning, not in victory, but in celebration of a family finally made whole. Above the valley, the ancient moon seal blazed brighter than ever before. Its light gathered into the shape of a radiant crown. Waiting. For the dawn, morning sunlight poured across Frostclaw Valley, turning the fresh snow into a sea of shimmering silver. The battlefield had disappeared. Broken walls were already being rebuilt. Former enemies carried timber together. Children laughed as they chased one another between newly planted cedar trees. For the first time in generations, wolves from rival kingdoms shared the same fire without fear. At the center of the valley stood the ancient first moon altar. Its weathered stone had remained dormant for centuries. Today, it awakened. Thousands gathered in respectful silence. There were no jeweled thrones, no towering palace, no celebration of power. Only families, warriors, elders, Alpha Kings, and Luna Queens standing beneath the open sky. Serena approached wearing the same simple pale blue cloak she had worn for years. She refused a royal gown. She refused a golden crown. "I have never needed either to love this kingdom," she said softly. The oldest elder smiled. "And that is why you deserve both." Lucian stood between Serena and Rowan, holding one hand from each of them. The little boy looked up at the ancient altar. It feels happy. At that moment, silver moonlight descended from a cloudless sky. The first moon crown, formed entirely from living light, slowly emerged above the altar. Every wolf instinctively lowered its head. The radiant crown floated gently toward Serena. No ruler touched it, no elder presented it. The ancient blessing chose its own queen. As the crown settled upon Serena's head, the crescent birthmark behind Lucien's ear glowed warmly. A second beam of light surrounded the little boy. An ancient silver seal appeared above him before dissolving into countless shimmering stars. High Elder Benedict stepped forward. His voice echoed across the valley. Before every kingdom gathered here today, we recognized Lucien as the Moon Heir, protected not by one throne, but by all. Every Alpha King drew his ceremonial blade. Instead of pointing it toward the child, they raised each sword toward the heavens, a sacred vow, a promise that no ruler would ever again hunt the child for his blood. Rowan stepped forward beside Serena. He looked across the United Kingdoms. For many years, I believed a king's greatest duty was protecting his crown. He gently rested one hand upon Lucien's shoulder. I was wrong. A kingdom survives because of love. A family survives because of trust. And a future survives because someone chooses compassion when fear demands something else. Thunderous applause echoed across the valley, not for a victorious king, for a reunited family. Far beyond Frostclaw, Magnus Dreadmore and Lady Selene began rebuilding the villages their ambition had destroyed. Each stone they lifted became a reminder that redemption required years, while hatred required only a single decision. Lucien looked towards the growing white cedar beside the altar. Will it become very tall? Serena smiled. If peace continues, it will grow for generations. The little boy nodded thoughtfully. Then I hope every child gets to climb it. Laughter spread through the gathering. Hope no longer belonged to prophecy. It belonged to ordinary people choosing kindness every day. And perhaps that leaves us with one final question. If you had discovered a child capable of changing the future of every kingdom, would you have protected him at any cost, or surrendered him to keep your own people safe? Share your answer in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable werewolf romance adventures where family, destiny, and redemption are stronger than any throne.